So you got your veggie garden going and everything's growing. Now the hard work really begins. And there's a lot of little things you want to check for. And every day I'm out here every morning while I'm watering and looking for these signs for garden health and for garden problems. One thing you want to do, which you can see I've done in this pepper, is remove any lower leaves that may show signs of disease. So I didn't clip these because they're perfectly healthy, but if there are any lower leaves near the dirt that show brown spots, bad edges, get rid of those because it may very well be fungus from the soil, and those lower leaves are not gonna be around anyway. So certainly anything that's directly touching the dirt, pinch that right off at the base, and anything that you see is diseased. Once you start having fruits like these pepper plants, you want to look at the base of any fruit really, tomato, zucchini, and make sure that there's no discoloration or soft spots on the base, because that'll indicate the blossom end rot, which means you have a calcium deficiency, and it takes a long time for the calcium to be available to the plants. So you want to avoid that if you can, because if I saw a spot here, this pepper would have problems for weeks until the calcium was fixed, or I'd have to do an emergency measure like dried milk. So you want to make sure you have the calcium and magnesium to begin with in your nutrients, and if you don't, look for that blossom end rot and make sure you get that calcium in there. As I go, I'm also looking for any signs of stress. We had high winds yesterday, so today I'm actually looking for broken plants, and it doesn't look like it. It's amazing how strong they are. I see a broken leaf on a cabbage here, and I also see some insect damage, so that's another thing to look for. There's the culprit right there, little worm chewing on the leaves, and here's some more insect damage. Those are leaf miners chewing on the leaves, which are so small you can't even really see them. But there's the evidence all over the leaves. So I believe my wife has already sprayed for the leaf miners. Now I see them starting to spread to other plants from this one. So I hope we caught that, and if we haven't, we have to spray it with BT to take care of those. And then what I do for those little green bugs, actually, believe it or not, is I look at the leaves. You go around and you look at your leaves, look for insects, especially if you see holes. That means something's there, and they're usually on the back of the leaves. If the leaf is folded at all, they're often in the folds. On plants like cabbages, earwigs and weevils and worms will hide in the base of the plant. And you got to be a little bit of a hunter when it comes to insects. So we're looking for disease, we're looking for nutrient deficiencies, we're looking for insects. And just looking at our cabbages and cauliflowers here, can see that there's a little bit of worm damage happening. And we have a lot of worms. I mean, we have thousands of worms that descend from these oak trees that are surrounding our property. So we know that that's a big thing that we have to combat. So with the tomatoes also, I'm looking for that blossom end rot. And boy, what a nice long Roma tomato that is. They're really long. Haven't grown this variety before. It's an Italian saucing tomato that my wife selected, and they're coming in really nicely. Those, along with our early girl tomatoes, is the other variety that we're growing over there. Another thing, if you have plants that need pollination, you're going to want to spend some time doing your pollination. So I don't see any open squash flowers. We've got a few that have been pollinated. My wife hand pollinated them. Now, the squash also, you want to get rid of those dead and diseased leaves at the bottom, and that will make your harvest go a lot longer. Actually, if you, these peas are going to be coming out, and that'll make it easier to deal with the squash. But those leaves, once the bottom leaves start yellowing and stuff, you cut those off, and what that does is it prevents any fungus or bacteria from spreading to the other leaves and to the other plant. So you don't want those spots, the yellowing, the browning. That's all caused by microorganism, and you don't want that to spread to the rest of the plant. Tomatoes are looking real nice. We're getting real nice clusters. I'm getting decent size for our early girls. They're smaller tomatoes, and they're coming in pretty nicely. So I'm only fertilizing them right now. I'm just starting to fertilize them twice a week. With the tomatoes, if you see my other tomato videos, I show how to pollinate, and you're just going around and tapping the flower stems like that on the woody part, or you can tap the whole branch too. Move those tomatoes around a little bit to get the pollination. So when you have a plant like a zucchini or a cucumber, if it's a cucumber that has male and female flowers, you have to move the pollen from the male flower to the female flower and pollinate it. Bees will do that for you. You can hand pollinate to ensure better pollination, and we do the same thing with the tomatoes. Actually, I don't need to do the tomatoes because it's so darn windy. They're gonna be fine without it. So the other thing you want to do is harvest. That's what we're out here for. We're picking lots of peas. Our peas are actually coming out now. They're not producing more flowers, you can see, so they're done for the year. There's no more flowers on this plant, just peas, and so we're going to pick that out, take the plants out, and plant more zucchini. That's what's coming next. You can see a couple of our broccoli plants fell over in the wind. It's the first real knockdown I've seen. I'll have to maybe stake that one up or reinforce it in some way. Sorry about that. For the time being, I use the plant next to it as support, and that keeps it from falling over for a moment until I get something to prop that up with. Let's see how our broccoli rob's doing. We've got broccoli rob coming in, and you want to get that right when it starts going to flower. You can see we've already harvested some, and you see the flowers are starting to get a little engorged, and those will pop open yellow, and that's when you want to eat the broccoli rob, is when it just starts turning yellow. Just like with these peas, they're full-on peas, and we could eat these as shelling peas or as snow peas. So we got a little of both, it looks like. So that's the kind of stuff I'm looking for, and also making sure that my automated systems work correctly, that the watering is going okay. We went through another moisture meter stopped working, so I'm doing it the old-fashioned way and just moving away the top layer of soil to see how moist the soil is underneath. And I'm real happy about this Rainbird drip line that I'm using now. I just learned that this stuff existed, and I'm real happy I finally found it. That it's drip lines with, this one just has holes in it, and I've got more coming that has emitters built into it. So it takes a lot of the work out of using the black line and putting your own holes in and stuff. There's no holes necessary. It's all spaced at regular intervals, and you get, controlled drip of, 1 or 2 gallons per hour, depending on what you get. So the other piece of news is the sweet potato miracle. Look at, I can't believe it. Even this one, which is a stick. I mean, look at that. That's how it was planted. It was just a dead stick. And look, there's some green growth happening right there. That sweet potato is alive. And they've all been like that. This one was a stick. This one here was a little dead stick. This one had this one meeny weeny dead leaf on it. They're really quite an amazing plant. All of them started to show green growth now when I was sure my wife planted dead plants. I mean, they just look at this thing. This dried up stick was planted, and 2 weeks later, we've got new life happening here. So the roots have taken hold. Look at the old leaves that we planted. I mean, and I say, you sure they're gonna live? I don't know, but boy, they're doing fine. Oh, wow, it's a sweet potato miracle. And that's a good number of them too. And that's another plant that we'll see later in the season. They're real easy to just clip a branch and replant them. So we've got sweet potatoes forever now, I'm sure of it. That's the report from sunny California. Have a great week.